Behind every brand, every movement, every leader, every transformation, there's a story. And intertwined in these stories is a message. And this podcast is for you, the next gen leader, coach, entrepreneur, and influencer. My name is Travis Brady, and I'm a branding mentor and sales story strategist. I hope you see me more of a guide than a host as I share the stories behind the brands, so you can take these stories, experiences, principles, and teachings and use them to share your story with the world. What's up, guys? We got another podcast, The Story Behind the Brand. I got one of my favorite, longest mentors, coaches, Elliott Hulse. He is blown up on YouTube, millions of followers across all his different social medias, and he helps men become the strongest version of themselves. He's definitely helped me over the years. I've been to a lot of his camps, trainings. Still to this day, his voice echoes inside my head when I'm going through stuff. I'm super excited to have him on here today to talk to you. And we're going to be talking about a lot of good stuff. I don't know exactly where we're going to go with it, but we're going to cover some good stuff here today. Elliott Hulse, man, super glad, blessed, grateful to have you on here, man. Fill in the gaps about you. What have you been up to recently, and where's your brand and business pulling you lately?
Well, I'll tell you this. A few years ago, I let myself go and I got fat. I was really obese. And, I'm a fitness influencer, so that shouldn't be expected from a guy like me. But I was a strong man, power lifter. We're known for eating a lot of food and lifting heavy shit. So let myself get real big. And it became a problem. I was pre-diabetic. And my insurance company, my life insurance company, dropped me from the policy. They're like, I'm a risk.
Wow.
And that hit me pretty hard because I'm like, I don't have to be this way. I kind of just was in one sense, I let myself go, but in another sense, I was like purposefully like hurting myself, in many ways. And self-sabotage behavior. But when I found that I would be out of life insurance, and it upset my wife. She wasn't distraught, but she was like, "Oh, this is not good. What if something happens to you?" And we're out in the dirt here. We got a big mortgage to pay and shit like that. And so I realized, I'm being really selfish here. In fact, a lot of people who have been following me for years and have learned how to be fit from me, I'm letting them down also. So over the past year, I've dropped about 40 pounds, gotten back into fitness shape. And a lot of people don't know this because you may have seen me on YouTube and I look fit, but there are times that I've taken off. And so behind the scenes, I got pretty fat, but hey, I'm back now. I'm getting shredded. And I think that that season taught me a lot about the type of struggles that other men have. And so I started a new program called Alpha School, where I'm helping guys who are at least 20 pounds overweight. But the key is have lost weight in the past and have gained it back repeatedly, because that has been my pattern. Our goal here is to get lean and stay lean for life. That's my goal. It's my commitment. And so we're working together with a bunch of guys for free. We have over 1,000 men in the community now. And that's what I'm dedicated to.
Nice. Yeah. And I want to come back to that in a second. Over the couple of years, it's been really hilarious to see some of your haters come out and come out when you talk about Trump, where country just went through one of its biggest deep breath reliefs that I think we've had in years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was incredible, man, to see that and what that man went through to gain back the presidency. But you talk a lot about him. You got a lot of hate from doing that. What did you tend to be pretty bold at times in doing that? How did you learn how to be able to put yourself out there, not worry about what some of those people say, and still be able to share what you believe in?
Well, in a way, I can't help it, and it hurts me many times more than it helps me. It isn't just with Donald Trump. Of course, everybody actually loves Donald Trump, unless you're retarded, and we got a bunch of retards here too. But I just have a big mouth. If you meet my dad, he's the same way. My uncles, it's in our blood. We express ourselves. We're very expressive people. So It wasn't like a matter of like decision. It's just a matter of me showing up and being myself.
You even though you say that, what I've always loved about your content is you say it in a very like grounded way. It doesn't, like, the way you present it doesn't seem like it's in your face, I'm better than you. Like, I've really appreciated the way you've presented it over the years. How did you find your voice over the years of sharing your message? Did you go through any doubts during that time? Give us a little like peek behind the curtains about finding your voice over the years, or is it, or your how your voice has evolved with your brand and your message? Because first you started off as the fitness, and then it went to more of the transformation. So yeah, talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I have to just come out and say I'm very self-centered. I like the sound of my my own voice. And so when you say find my voice, I mean like everybody's voice is there. Um, I just happen to like mine. So I speak and I express myself and I say what's on my mind. And with that self-centeredness, it's not that I don't care what other people think or say. It's not that I'm dismissive of other people. I just believe that whatever I'm saying is what everybody else is thinking anyway. Like I said a minute ago, like everybody goes down. Like, how do you not like Donald Trump? Like, I honestly believe that my thoughts are the thoughts of everybody else's. Now, of course, it's sort of an innate thing, and it's not true. I know that's not true. But when I learn something or I'm speaking about something that some opinion that I have, I just assume everybody's going to have the same opinion as well, because to me it just seems plain. But I
Mm-hmm.
know it's not true because I've had opinions that I've changed my mind on, throughout my life too. So if I had a former Elliott come and talk to this Elliott, I would respect him because it's like this guy believes what he's saying. I always believe what I'm saying, but maybe I just disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Adam Sandler was on, gosh, I can't remember what station he was on, but he was talking to, oh, I think it was Joe Rogan, and he was saying, a big part of why he felt like he was successful is because he had just this delusional confidence about himself.
Yeah, I think
And
that's it.
the more that I think about it, I think there is that kind of that level of delusional confidence about yourself. And it seems to be kind of what you're saying, like that elevated confidence in what you believe and what you stand for is what I'm hearing through the whole matter.
Yeah, either that or like a little bit of autism.
We were speaking of that, we were out at my son's soccer game, and I I I was teasing my friends. They're like, "Why is your son playing soccer?" I thought it was a baseball player and a football player. Is like, "Well, we're just working on his footwork right now for soccer." And he's he's out there, and we don't believe in any of the vaccines or any of that stuff. And I know that's something that you've spoke out as well. And that's definitely got me in trouble with some people that do believe in the immunizations. And I was leaning over to my girl. I was like, you could tell which kids, in my opinion, have got the shot versus have not got the shot. I don't know if you've noticed that with people. I think we're over vaccinated. Robert Kennedy talks a lot about this, with the nature of our health and everything. You have kids as yourself. I don't know if you've seen the differences with some of the kids that your friend, some of your kids' as friends that they hang out with at all, and the way that they approach their health and everything like that. I know you've been very boisterous with those types of things.
Yeah, being anti-vax is cool these days, but this was me back in 2002, before it was even a thing. And it was such a wild opinion. It was such a different thing. It was a path that people didn't even think existed. And once again, me with my, autistic thinking, I'm like, the minute I got the fact of like what was going on, I was like, wait a second. That's right. Why the hell do we put all this stuff in our bodies? Like where did this come from? I think a lot of times our society, we accept things on face value and never question it. I think that's what most people do. People just accept certain things, like school, like you must go to school. I knew when I was in school, I was like, this is a crock. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I even here? Right. So I homeschool my kids, and I'm gonna send my kids to college, like that doesn't make any sense. Like to me, it doesn't add up. It's like, but because everybody else is doing it, most people just go along with it. But if you really like what I think has been happening since the pandemic, a lot of people are like actually starting to question things. And so their brain is opening up where like my brain was just, again, like maybe I was born this way. My brain was sort of like born open and it doesn't always serve me. Sometimes it screws me up because I believe I can get really wild with some of my ideas, but I question everything. And the minute something becomes a dogma is like the minute I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna figure out why that's not true. Maybe it's a rebellious streak in me or something like that. But as
Yeah.
far as as soon as like the pandemic came out and everybody's getting a shot, like I was laughing because my kids are 20 years old and I haven't put a single shot in my kids. And everybody, all my kids were like, we had to be quiet. We had to like, sneak them into places that like require these sports and stuff that require to take shots.
Yeah.
So,
Same.
well, I'm happy to see that people are coming around now because there's like this medical freedom. So it's like, 20 years later, people are starting to like question that. And so I'm already past that stage because my kids are grown, but it kind of like, it makes my ego even bigger. Like, I'm like, you guys are so late. Like everybody who likes Donald Trump now, so funny because like I'm not even like vocal about him that much anymore because I'm already past that. I was vocal about him when everybody was hating on him. So
Yeah.
I was like, can't you guys see what's going on here? Like it was so obvious to me. I was like, this is the only guy that's making sense right now. But
Right.
now it's like everybody's on the bandwagon. Like everybody's a Trump supporter. So I'm like, I stopped talking about it. And like everybody who's like rally, big Trump rally, I was like, I know you motherfuckers voted for Obama back in the day. Don't pretend like, but I give you your grace because it's like eventually you learn. I just happen to learn early. And then the bell curve passes and I'm looking back at people. I'm like, oh, okay. You're you're all the conspiracy theories that I was spouting, you were telling me I'm crazy, and now you're accepting. So
And that seems to be a lot of your content. You really try to put out stuff that not a lot of people are talking about, or what people might disagree. And I remember you did a video about David Goggins is a sadist,
a
right?
beta male.
Beta
Yeah,
male. Yeah.
I said he was a masochist. He's a beta male. Yeah, he's well, anyway. Watch the video.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, Elliott is fighting some gonna be fighting some people here in a second. But there was a lot of wisdom behind that. And he spoke at an event. How I feel about him, I think he's great. I think exactly what you're saying. It's comes from a very dark type of warrior energy. And I notice whenever I'm in a dark type of warrior energy, it's not very loving. It's very off putting. And I don't attract people around me. And when I listen to people like David Goggins, I feel like it moves me from that light warrior to that dark warrior, and even maybe that tyrant that's very bossy and demanding. And I don't think it's healthy for me or myself. Have you talk a lot about the archetypes and moving through the different seasons? Where do you think nowadays most males get caught up in their shadow, or do you see it's just with the different shadows? Like, you talk a lot about manhood and being a great father. What's the biggest problem you see with a lot of the men right now that are struggling?
Yeah, this comes straight from the work of Robert Moore, who brought us the neo-Jungian concept of the king, warrior, magician, lover archetypes. Right?
Mhm.
Jung knew these existed. He said that the psyche is quadrated, and you could break it down into thinking, feeling, being, and doing. Um, but as far as where we are as men today, Robert Moore once said that wherever there's an addiction, there's a wounded lover. And it'd be hard pressed to find a man today who isn't addicted to something. We're all sedating in one way, shape, or form, right? And so, regardless of the type of sedation, it's because we have a wounded lover. We don't know how to be loved. We don't really know how to love, and it comes from a wounded relationship in the family. It comes from the broken family that is just commonplace in the world today. And I'm not just talking about divorced families. I'm talking about families where the mother is the boss bitch and the dad's a beta male, or that the mom is working full time and she's just not there available for the kids. And, and the dad's addicted to watching sports or, playing video games or and drinking beer, whatever the case may be. That then passes on to us. And we find ways to sedate as well, be it with work. That's one way to do it. But, pornography is probably the most prevalent and ever present and insidious form of addiction that is destroying men. And social media is so insidious because we don't recognize, it's like just everywhere. And then, drinking, drugs, jerking off, all these things. Very, very few and in between is there a man who has a healthy detachment from those kinds of things. If he is detached from it, a lot of times it comes in the form of like the dark warrior, like you mentioned before. Like, I'm just a masochist, so I'm punishing myself by doing these dopamine detoxes and fasting and not, having any pleasure, which that, I'm familiar with that. I do a lot of that. As opposed to really actually just loving ourselves and treating ourselves well, and not sedating out of a place of love rather than ambition.
You talked about we all go through the spring, this summer, this fall, this winter. Um, and we was just talking a little bit off air about, I feel like I'm coming out of this winter, in my life, and I feel the springtime coming. How do we tap more into those seasons and get more self-aware about the shadows and the places that we get stuck in? Because I think, and maybe this conversation goes back to a little bit about, a lot of men, and even sometimes myself, I notice I get stuck in, well, I've already done the work. I've already, looked at some of these traumas. And I feel like since I've done the work, I don't need to do the work. What would you say to those types of people who aren't open for it and looking to see more transformation into their lives?
Hmm. Well, as far as like doing the work and it being done, as long as we are living in these flesh suits, the work is never done. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, just the pressure of daily life presses in on us in such a way that we're always reacting. So the challenge of one season may be overcome, but then there's going to be another one. 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 Um, I I think it's in the gospel where Christ says something to the effect of like, I'm not quoting him properly, but you don't get out of here unless you pay every penny. Every penny must be paid. And I think that's an old Zen saying also too. Like, you must pay every penny. And so once the last penny has been paid, that's when we get out of here. And that basically means that you've ascended. You've shed this body and you go on to the next life. You're dead. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
the work is never done. And as
Yeah.
far as seasons are concerned, there are somewhat predictable patterns of what we'll experience based on our age and the stage that we are and our level of maturity. But it's all always aiming towards fulfillment, or not even fulfillment. A better word is wholeness, fullness. That's what I was thinking about. It's always leading us closer and closer to fullness if we're aware. If we're not aware, we can allow it to destroy us. Hard season, dark seasons are just like winter. If you go outside in winter time and you live in one of these cold northern states and you don't know better, you could be depressed and say, what has happened to the world? What happened to the beautiful green grass, the beautiful green trees and the birds, and everything has gone away. And now it's just cold and it's desolate. We know better. We know that, oh, well, what's actually happening is the energy has receded. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's just in the ground,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just as potent, but it's resting. Energy is in a rest state. What happens in a rest state? Repair, inner growth, reflection, recovery. Why? Well, and I think people who live in like Washington and New York, like these states that have apples, grow apples. I've heard this before about apples.
Mm-hmm.
that you know you're going to get a really good apple season depending on how cold the winter was. If you only have like a mild winter and it's not very cold, well, then the apple season, the apples will not just be that great. But you're like, if you're an apple orchard owner and it's like a freezing, like just desperately cold winter, you're rubbing your hands because you're like, oh boy, the fruits are going to be amazing. It works the same way in our life if we allow it the same way we allow nature to unfold.
Yeah, you talk a lot of you. One thing I really appreciate, you connect a lot of truths together. I know that you've been on this giant religious journey at one time, and I could be mistaking. You said you were more atheist or agnostic, but you still talked about praying and the power of prayer. What's been your journey recently in your connection with God and higher power, and how has that affected these seasons and going through them?
Well, I discovered the truth, the beauty, the goodness, and very importantly, the history of the Catholic faith. And I
Mm-hmm.
was I was baptized Catholic, but I fell away from the faith. So did my parents. I mean, it's just normal today, right? Why would you want to do any of that stuff? But in my pursuit for the truth about Western civilization and history, that's really a big part of how I came back to the Catholic faith.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for a uniquely Western spirituality, back when I was not that I'm any different now, but like, it was the Donald Trump era, not 2019, 2020. And it was like, man, like, why is everybody hating on America? Why is everybody hating on like straight white Christian men? Like what is once again, it's like I start looking at what everybody's doing and what's in vogue and what's trendy. And I want to know like what the hell is actually going on. So I look at the opposite. And I'm like, why does everybody hate Christianity? Why does everybody hate the Catholic Church? Why are all these new generations? Why is everybody looking for spirituality in the East? Like, why is everybody fucking becoming Buddhist and even Muslim? Like, why? We're Westerners, we're American, we're European. Like, don't we have a spiritual tradition? Don't we have our own spiritual history? And in that pursuit, I interestingly came across Orthodox Christianity because they hold a lot of the tradition of the Desert Fathers and the old monastic traditions and um, hermitages and monks and stuff like that. And I was like, this is what I was looking for. I don't want to see any more freaking Buddhist monks. Not anything prejudiced against them at all, but I'm like, that's for them. Like, where is ours? Our society can't be so fucking shallow that all we do is worship celebrities and sports stars. Like, no, we must have a deep spiritual tradition. Well, we absolutely do. And it's beautiful and it's true. And it's in our whole ethos in Western civilization is built on the foundation of the Catholic Church. I mean, the Catholic Church created the first hospitals, the first universities, the first charities. I mean, so on and so forth. Uh, orphanages, but a lot of that stuff has been outsourced to governments now because during the years of the revolutions, French Revolution, American Revolution, which isn't what it's all cracked up to be in what I've learned about our history, all of those institutions basically have created knockoffs of what the Catholic tradition built in the West. So a lot of the things that we take for granted, even the structure of corporations and military, it was all from our Catholic tradition, our Catholic roots. And so, although I was looking for spiritual truth in Christianity and found orthodoxy, I found so much more. Granted that I already was Catholic, I just forgot. I was baptized as a kid and confirmed.
Sure.
But then I began to understand, and I started to see the attack on Western civilization at an ideological level begins with an attack on the church and the family. This is why the society hates the family so much and hates the church so much. Why does society hate the family and church so much? Like there's got to be some kind of diabolical reason why those two institutions that built our society are failing so much. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
because, well, Satan knows if he wants to destroy, which of course I'm saying this like the egomaniac I am, the best civilizations on earth, Western civilization, right? Western civilization. I don't native. I live in America. Native Americans, they didn't build cities that have skyscrapers. They couldn't. They didn't have written languages and shit like that. Africans, they have no written language. They have no history, right? Maybe in the Far East, there's a little bit more, but nothing tops the brilliance and the beauty of Western civilization. Why are we in such a degenerate, decadent place? Because if you want to destroy the world, you take out the best. And that's what the whole attack on Donald Trump was about. Just look at
Yeah.
the parallel between Donald Trump and Kamala.
Right.
That's the battle right there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And and I say this, and I think people might attack me over it. I believe in more traditional roles with leadership. And I believe women can be absolutely game changers in business because they're really good at connecting. They're really good at that. And I feel like the men and women battle each other in stuff that we're not, right? Like the women try to like challenge the men in being creators. And I feel like there's this whole gender reverse going on with the world. And I'm sure you see this as well. And I think if you're a common man, you'll listen to these women saying, hey, here's what I want from my man. Right. But that's not really what I feel like they want at the end of the day. And I feel like there's being this giant gender reversal thing going on, but also at the same time, and this is my question for you, is although that is happening, how much of that, like, there's always gonna, it seems like there's being more and more bled into it, right? Like there's being more women are working, right? What's your thought? And I'm trying to like think of what the exact question is. To some level, isn't there have to be a balance more with what's going on? Or do you feel like it's just too extreme already? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that? Your wife works at home. You said her number one role is being a mom. My lady that I work with, I told her, what's most important to me for you is first being a partner. Second to me is then being a mom, but also having her involved in the business is important to me. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I feel like we're at the point of no return. It's never going to be like it was in the 1950s or the 1940s where the men just work and the women stay home. I feel like we're almost at the point of no return where it's ever going to go back to that. So how do we as men adopt to these modern day without going so far into the contrast, if that makes sense?
Well, I want to touch on that point that we can't go back. You're saying that we're too far gone, and I don't believe that. Um, Time and time again, if you just look at the cyclical nature of history, and specifically in the Bible, take it or leave it, it tells you the story of humanity, and there are a lot of patterns that can be recognized, and we fall away, we get chastised, and we come back. We fall away, we get chastised, and we come back. It seems like humanity has amnesia, cyclical amnesia. It's like we think that we are at a certain point where progress is going to be linear. And then we just, like the Tower of Babel, shoot ourselves in the foot and God strikes us down. And then we start all over again and it starts fresh. And you don't even have to go very far into history to see that. Look at Russia. Russia was destroyed by the Bolshevik Revolution, which is what we're experiencing here now. But Russia was attacked first, Russia and Eastern Europe. And the first thing they did was, they unfolded feminism, homosexuality, LGBT stuff from, almost 100 years ago, destroying the family, communism, atheism, all that stuff. All that like began in like in the early part of the 20th century, even before that, right? Karl Marx and all that shit.
Yeah, we're seeing that. We're seeing that. Did you see the opening to the Olympics?
Right,
Uh,
right.
I
That's
couldn't,
not new,
I
but
couldn't
it
even
but it
believe
came
that.
this way. It started in the East.
Yeah,
But
that
look at the East now. Look at Russia now. Women are traditional, men are manly. It's only been 100 years. It's in our lifetime. We watch the debauchery and the degeneracy and the diabolical delusion of communism, which is straight out of hell. It's Satan's tool in our lives and humanity today. It's a very powerful technology, socialism, communism, which brings us feminism, LGBTism, so-called racism. All that stuff is bullshit. All that stuff is just made up, and it's a weapon. It's a technology. It's a tool you use to destroy, to separate and destroy a society. And we can in the West foreshadow what will happen by looking at what happened in the East. Russia, unfortunately, they succumb, and it was brutal and it was bloody, much worse than it is and has been for us. So it was, maybe that will make a difference, but they hit rock bottom, and it was just bad, right? Former Soviet Union. But then what happened to the Soviet Union? It smashed, it crumbled. They had to pick up the pieces and figure out what they needed to do next. And now, like, if Donald Trump isn't my president, Putin would be. Do you know Putin? Putin opened up the door for all Westerners who are tired of woke shit to come and have amnesty in Russia. Russia's taking our fugitives, our what do you call them? Refugees, right? Because it's like the war of wokeism in the West. Putin's like, if you're tired of that shit and you want tradition again, come here to Russia, where men are men and women are women. And I'm not saying I agree with or even know that much about Putin, but he's a manly fucking man that emerged out of the rubble of the Soviet Union. I think that for us to reclaim that, we have to be chastised. I don't know if we just came out of our light slap of a chastisement with the whole Obama era. We had a little glimpse with Trump in between of what's possible, and maybe that was God's saving grace for us. And maybe Obama, I mean, maybe Trump is our Putin, and he's going to lead us. I'm not against. I'm ranting now. I'm not against monarchy. I'm not against crowning the Trumps as our leaders for the next, you know, Barron seems like a badass. He's like 7 feet tall. Like, yo, pass the crown to your sons.
right.
I don't need more options. I don't need democracy. Democracy is bullshit. I need a great fucking manly leader in charge that knows how to take charge and knows how to run a country well. The
Mm-hmm.
minute I heard that the minute that Trump won yesterday, was it yesterday, day before yesterday? I think it was Hamas or one of these terrorist groups over in the Middle East. Like they like stopped doing some shit. There was some shit that they were like doing, and they were like, "Oh shit, Trump's back,"
Yep.
and they stopped.
Hell
So
yeah.
anyway, that's my little rant on that.
What what would you say to men that want to be more alpha and be more of the man that we're supposed to be, that may feel like they have been the saying that I said when I went through my divorce is I lost my penis and I had to find it again. And what would you say to men that are trying to be more manly men and be more leaders within their business and their family? Where do you think men should start these days that haven't really done some of this work that you talk about with dynamic meditation, reading, prayer, work it out, and stuff like that?
Well, yeah, those are all tactics. There are things you can do, but the strategy is mental. And so you need a new paradigm, right? Because the real attack on us, it wasn't the things that we do, it's the way that we think. The real attack has been insidious. It's an ideological subversion. That's what Yuri Bezmenov called it. And in terms of sexual dynamics, the very first thing that we got to recognize, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but hear me out. You have to recognize the distinction, the inherent inside out distinction between a man and a woman. We're not the same. We're not even equal. Men and women aren't equal. There are tremendous inequalities between us just based on nature. You put me in just look at with transgenderism. You put a man who's dressed up like a woman in a cage with another woman, he's gonna smash the shit out of her. They're not equal. They're not equal contenders.
Mm.
You mentioned earlier a woman's ability to relate. Men are bulldozers. We'll just truck ourselves over people to get shit done. Women will do it in a much more smooth and subtle way. We're not equal. They've got that power, right? They actually have a power that puts us at their beck and call. Power of the pussy. Man will do anything. All the most beautiful things in the world that have been created is because men love women. We created societies, we created art, we created architecture, we create technology, we make money, we work out in the gym, we do all these things. Why? Because we love women and they make us want to do these things for them. We're like the cat's paw. Who's more powerful? We're not equal, but we have our unique and separate powers. Right? And that needs to be recognized, and it needs to come through in our language, because this is how the Bolsheviks, and when I say Bolsheviks, I'm saying modern day wokeism, liberals, lefts, their attack is ideological. And the way you subvert someone ideologically is through language. Be very careful with the language that you allow them to give you, right? But anyway, so for example, you used a word before that I would caution you against. I just want to draw it to your attention. And I'm not judging you, because we've all been under this. You called your woman your partner.
Mm.
That's a homosexual term. Homos have partners.
That's true. That's true.
Right.
I call her a partner, and the reason why I say that is because we're planning on getting married. We're not quite engaged, so it's like, I guess the
She's
girlfriend.
your woman. My woman. She's with me. I'm a man. I'm the man. She's with me. She's my woman. And when you marry her, she's your wife. My wife is not my partner. I have a business partner. I have business partners, right? I might have a partner in crime. I might have a partner in sports, right? But when it comes to males and females, we're not partners. We help each other. She's my helpmate. You are the head. And that doesn't negate or diminish her power at all. In fact, it gives her power. It gives her power, because the same way that the head has its dominion over the body, the head leads. The head leads. But what does the head lead? In service of the body. The head leads in service of the heart. The man leads in service of his woman. His woman, he does everything for his woman. He bleeds for his woman, but he's the head. The buck stops with him. And this is just biological. Why? Because we're stronger. And you could just argue to the death that, oh, well, physical strength doesn't mean anything in a society that's civilized. Oh, no. If you don't follow the rules of the society, what's going to happen? The strong arm of the law is going to come down on you. It's always about strength. It's always about strength. So if we're talking the most primal, basic human behavior, and if I don't like what you say, woman, I smash you, go sit down and shut up. I don't care how clever you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care what you think you can do. I'm smashing you and you're listening to me. It's just the way it's going to be. Mm-hmm. Is that right or good or moral? That's not the argument. I'm talking about truth. What is? Mm-hmm. And just to reiterate, and like someone who might be having feelings about what I'm saying right now, listen, if I beat my wife and society doesn't like it, the society is going to beat me. You're going to send 4 cops in here with billy clubs and they're going to beat the shit out of me. So strength wins again. And so everything that a woman has is because men have allowed them to have it. I know that sounds crazy and people don't want to, they don't want to hear it. But women don't have a single thing that a man hasn't given them. And it's based, just look at how we have sex.
Mm.
And this is another distinction that I think men need to recognize. We don't get sex from women. We give it to them.
Mm.
Now, whether or not they're open to our advances and our sex is a different story.
Sure.
But who's penetrating who?
Right.
You
No,
didn't give. I'm giving you my sex.
yeah.
We got to pay attention to these things.
Yeah. I love it. What are you studying a lot these days? Where are you getting a lot of your content ideas for YouTube and Instagram, or is it mostly just coming from your experiences that you're going through?
I'm not really consuming very much these days. I always keep a book on my shelf. I'm always reading something. Right now, I'm reading Relentless by Tim Grover. He was a strength coach that trained, Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley and Kobe Bryant, like, just badass strength coach. Talks about the attitude that they had as winners. He calls them cleaners.
Yeah.
So I'm reading that, just motivational, just stuff to keep me focused on, cleaning up and doing my good thing. But I'm working a lot, and anything that I'm consuming, it's helping me build Alpha School. That's really what it is. Any type of business strategies that I can learn, or any type of mental frameworks, or just how to get better results in fat loss for men. That's my latest obsession. Really, that's really where I'm working.
You're so good at getting attention. You're so good at speaking. What's your ideology for putting together your posts and your videos when you go to put them together? Do you have a
Man,
framework that you go by that works really good with you? Or like how do you decide what that is? I've been on this recent journey of just like video everything, pop up the phone, video it. We could decide whether we want to post it or later. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on myself to perform in that moment. So I kind of split myself into two. Travis is going to do the content. Travis is also the videographer, so he's going to do his job over here. I'm going to do my job. And then the editor, who is sometimes me, sometimes other people, I will decide later if I want to post it. Tell us a little bit about what your routine is when you go through this. How do you get in state? Because sometimes you don't really feel like talking to anyone or saying anything. So tell us a little bit about that.
well, it's very easy to get lost, paralysis by analysis, and doing what everybody else is doing. And I became popular on YouTube by answering questions, like I'm doing with you here right now. And to tell you the truth, I feel most in my element when I'm just answering questions. You're throwing great questions at me, and I get to just bat them back at you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes natural. That comes easy. That's second nature to me. And so if you could call that a framework, Q&A, that's probably my, and it's funny that we're having this conversation right now because I'm back on YouTube, and and you gotta, if you watch my past like 10 videos, you'll watch me go from awkward to charismatic in a matter of 10 videos, because I'm just coming back and I'm like, all right, what do I need to do? I'm watching these videos. They're saying I have to open the video with the promise, a hook, and then I have to have a promise, and then I got to tell them who I am, and then I got to walk them through the steps, and then I got to ask them to subscribe, and then I have to have my call to action. And I'm like, if you watch my first couple videos, they're very robotic and awkward, and my charisma is not there at all, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to do a framework that other people have told me, because I
Mm-hmm.
want to do well, right?
Mm-hmm.
By the ninth or 10th video, it literally was progressive. It's so funny. Now I'm just shouting and ranting like I'm doing right now. I'm like, this is what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to talk all around it. I'm talking circles, backwards, forwards. I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want to say, and I'm in my element, and I feel great. So my framework really is minimal frameworks, and this is, I knew this because I created 1,000+ videos that made me popular to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Just no framework, answering questions, shooting from the hip, no edits, nothing. And now, every time I come back, I forget that. And now I'm remembering again. I'm like, yo, fuck this framework bullshit. I'm just talking, and you're gonna enjoy hearing me talk, and that's it. And as far as your strategy of, filming everything and, carrying your phone, which is so cool. We have our cell phones. We can film as much as we want all day long. I'm a very private person, and I don't want motherfuckers following me around in the rest of my life. If I'm
Mhm.
making videos, there's a very specific time and a very specific place in a very specific frame, meaning like I'm standing in the camera and this is where I make videos.
Mhm.
As opposed to, vlogging and talking about shit on the fly. That just I want my time to be mine. And when I'm making videos, I'm working. So I leave work in front of the camera and my life elsewhere. Even though I know that vlogging is popular and people, they do respond to it. They really like it. They want to see what's going on behind the scenes. Even my
Mhm.
workouts. Like I don't want you following me in my fucking workouts. I
Mhm.
want to be alone, me and my kids. I don't put on any music. I don't want to be talking to the camera or performing. But when it's time to make a video, I'll just stand in front of it and I'll talk to you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. And I think that's good for people to kind of understand that. One last question before I go. Actually, it's a two-part question. When you really started to blow up on YouTube, I remember you saying originally you were just trying to build your strength camp event, but it took off. How
Mhm.
did you handle that? Like getting so much attention overnight and blowing up into this YouTube celebrity. What would you say to those people that are really trying to get themselves out there? And we come in the business because we have, a message, a story to share with the world. And everyone wants to get this story out there as much as it possibly can, right? And share with the world. But you actually have done that. It's been like worldwide. How did you deal with that when it first started to happen? And what would you say to those people that are trying to get their message out to the world?
Well, okay, two-part question. First part, how did I deal with it? Not very well. Not very well because I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was totally, like co competent, incompetent, competent. I forget what it was like, just not aware that I'm aware. Like I didn't know. I didn't know that this was going to turn into, millions of people are following me and they like what I say and they're going to put me on a pedestal. And I wasn't prepared for that pedestal, right? Like nowadays, people know, oh, if you create a YouTube channel, you become a YouTuber and you become famous, and then it all opens up all this opportunity. You can approach it in a bit more grounded way. But I just woke up one day and it was like, oh shit, they think I'm amazing. People love me. I'm awesome. And it got to my head and it hurt me, but it was the lessons that I needed to learn. Those were the lessons that God put me here to learn. My sole contract was you're going to learn how to handle this charisma and you're going to hurt yourself with it, but you're going to come back in your second half of life and you're going to dominate it in a very conscious way. That's where I'm at right now, literally restarting that journey.
Mm.
So I didn't know how to handle it. My head got the best of me. I mean, by the grace of God, I didn't lose my family. I didn't do anything, like I can't say that if I didn't live in California or Miami, I wouldn't have blown it. But I lived in like, bumfuck Florida. St. Pete was just Slackerville at the time. And so it wasn't like, I had opportunities to like cheat on my wife and like get involved with cocaine and shit like that. But I can't say I wouldn't have. It's just by the grace of God, he saved me. He was like, I'm going to put you in this ghetto ass city where there's no opportunity for you to get yourself in too much trouble.
Yeah,
And so, it was very, at the time too, St. Pete was very small. I had my little small circle and, I caused a little bit of a ruckus, but like, it was small. And plus, I already had a family at that point and, it wasn't like single. So I, go blow my load all around the world. It was like, yeah, I got responsibilities and, and I love my family. So it could have been worse. It definitely could have been worse,
sure.
but I'm happy for the experience.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. What's next with your brand? You have, I know you've gathered groups with men being around men. I guess that's the last question. Why do you think it's so important for men to be around other men that have values and have goals in life?
Well, I'm a little distracted because I didn't answer your second question. Do you want me to go back and answer that second one, or you want me
Yeah,
to get?
sure. Yeah, sure. Go ahead and back then just comb the way through it. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So your second question was like, what advice do I have for somebody who's a creator, right? Because isn't that
Yeah.
what your channel is all about? Like guys who want to, put themselves out there or something like that.
Yeah, so we work with a lot of people trying to put out their brand, share their story, share their experiences through documentaries and video reels. And so a lot of people come to me and, they're wanting to get out there. I think some people aren't emotionally or mentally ready to receive that type of attention. And I think that's the reason why they don't get the attention is because they're not mentally and emotionally ready to receive it. And I've even heard someone say, "Oh, I'm afraid that I'm going to blow up." And I'm like, do you know how much conscious attention and effort you need to put out there to get that? That's not going to accidentally just happen. So I'm just curious about some of the things that you went through and advice you would give for people that wanna do that.
Well, once again, unconsciously competent, and it was accidental.
Yeah.
I know you said there's no accidents, but it was an accident. It was an accident for me.
I
And I
think
say that because once again, I started making videos when YouTube just became a thing, right? My
mhm,
first video came out in 2007 and YouTube just came out. So anything that anybody was doing on YouTube was accidental. Nobody knew what the fuck they were doing. I mean, like the most popular YouTube videos at the time were like Charlie bit my finger and like cat videos. I'm telling you, that's what
yeah, I
YouTube
remember that.
was when I started. So
Yeah.
everything was accidental. Charlie bit his brother's finger by accident and became a star, right?
Yeah.
So I don't.
I
Mhm.
think I lately the reoccurring message in my life has been, stop worrying so much about the product and focus on the process. You talk about this money is the byproduct of value. And so I've really been dedicating myself to, well, what's the process? What's the thing that I need to commit to? And so I think like on the outside looking at you, you were committing to doing the videos, you were showing up real, you were showing up as yourself. And so the byproduct of good value, truth, and really delivering it in a unique way that people haven't heard before, I think that was the recipe to blow up. And that's exactly what you did.
Man, listen, I can only speak based on my experience and who I am. And I know that my popularity is due to my charisma. That's the way I talk, the inflection in my voice, the way I move my eyes and move my hands and rhyme my words and just do the shit that I do. And that comes from my soul. That's just I can't give that to you. But there
Sure.
is a channel called Charisma on Command. This kid Charlie, he started a channel and he did a breakdown of me, but he does a breakdown of like everybody.
Sure.
He had one like on Donald Trump and shit like that. And he shows you how to reverse engineer charisma, which is
Interesting.
I'm unconsciously competent. I mean, I'm just doing this shit and I'm not thinking about it.
Sure.
I was talking like this when I was a kid, but then he goes and he breaks it down. He's like, okay, well, take notice. This is how Elliott approaches the camera. This is how he uses his hands. These are the way he tells stories. You see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
so you can learn those things, but charisma is everything today, I think, man. Like, and charisma doesn't mean that you're bombastic and sporadic and you're talking fast and loud. That's not what it necessarily means. It means that you have really tapped into your unique way of expressing ideas. Because listen, information is cheap these days. If you're an info marketer, good luck. If you're selling information, fucking good luck. Because
Yep.
everybody's just giving away the information for free. It's all
Yep.
out there, it's all for free.
Yep.
Maybe you can package it and deliver it in a way that is easily consumable, but everything's for free.
Yeah.
What people want is to be entertained. They want somebody to give it to them in a way that gives them feelings, right?
Mhm.
And when I talk and I go close to the camera and I say feelings, that makes people feel something right away. Like, what is this guy doing? He's spitting in my face, right?
Yeah.
People respond to feelings. So being real, being raw, obviously you need to be relevant towards the things that they want. They need to see that you have the ability to give them what they want, right? You want to
Mhm.
get lean? I can help you with that, but I'm going to give it to you in a real, raw, authentic way. And that's what makes the difference.
Yep.
You don't have to be the best at what you do. You just got to make people feel it, like
Yeah.
penetrate them with the way you deliver it.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen to that. I think someone taught me, fuck your information. I think that was you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Last question, we wrap it up. And I want to hear more about like what you're doing in your business. Yeah, I believe in the sanctity of brotherhood. I grew up as an older brother, and I was always told by my parents, like, you need to set a good example for your brother. And in a weird way, that helped me become a better leader because I was so focused on leading my son, or my son, my brother. And so we have a men's group called the Arizona Brotherhood. And I just believe men need men. Build off of that. Why is that so important for men to be around other men?
Well, here's the thing. As opposed to a woman that has a special grace, there's a special innate, primal, nature-driven instinct that helps a woman know how to be a woman. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we all come from a woman. So a woman is born of the soil of what she is, right? But a man is born of a soil of that which is his opposite. We both come from women. The only difference is I got a dick and she's got a vagina. And so with women, it's very easy. I am that which I come from. My mom, I have this, just the boy and the girl both have this same blood, same heartbeat, same nourishment, same everything from the woman, except the boy at a certain point has a crisis. He's like, wait a second. I'm not like that. And it's tough for a lot of boys who don't have dads because he knows he's not like his mom. He knows that there's something different. And it's not just penis and vagina. We're very different psychologically, emotionally, all of these things. So when a boy only has women, he's alone. And not only that, he doesn't know how to be. And there's a tendency, right, because it's easy to just sink into that which you know. Mm-hmm. And so you see like a lot of these boys who don't have dads, who come from single moms, they're, either very effeminate beta males or they're homosexuals. And it's because they don't know anything better, right? But a boy only knows himself by seeing a man. He can look and say, oh, that's what I am. If there's a dad there or there's another man there. And, because feminism reigns in our world, he'll be lucky if he doesn't have scars against the father. Because a lot of women, they don't, of course, they're under the same ideological subversion as we are. They badmouth men. They want to make their boy into a woman. And they'll say things like, you're going to be the kind of man that I always wanted. You're going to be the kind of man that I wanted your dad to be. You're going to be better than other men. You're not going to be like other men. Well, then what am I going to be? You're going to be like a woman. And that's what women do to boys who don't have other men. They don't have men. They turn them into the image of a woman, what a woman thinks a man should be. And a woman doesn't know what a man should be. Women will say that they want a man to be a certain way, but they really don't. They're just projecting their values on a man, which is wrong. That's the most aggressive thing that you can do. A man doesn't want a woman to be a man. Mm-hmm. We want you to be women because that's why we like you. But a woman, just because of, a woman's power comes from inside. Like I said, she's got a subtle power as opposed to a man. Our power is overt. So a woman wants to control from inside, right? She wants to control. She wants to manipulate. That's what they do. They manipulate, right? So she wants to exert her power based on her internal frameworks and projecting them onto men. And she'll do that to her son. Now, I know your question was, why do men need other men? Men need other men because we don't know what a man is unless we're around other men. And not only that, we don't even know where we stand in the order of man if there aren't other men to compare ourselves to. Men are competitive. Men are hierarchical. Men are judgmental. We compare, and it's all right. It's all true because men work in hierarchies women are egalitarian. And it's not a bad thing. The world is, we live in this, everybody deserves a fucking trophy world. But if everybody deserves a trophy, then nobody would ascend to or aspire to doing anything great.
Right.
This is why communism doesn't work.
Yep.
Everybody's equal. So then why should I assert myself dominantly over these other men? And if you have the power and the charisma and the clarity and the skill to be a dominant man, and everybody has their own, domain. You got to be dominant in your domain. If I can be in a room with a bunch of men that are, Elliott Hulse fans who I helped them lose weight when they were teenagers, and I'm the dominant figure. I'm the dominant figure in the room. Everybody knows it. There's no question about it. I can comfortably stand in that spot with the responsibility. That's what I think is very important, by not teaching hierarchy and dominance and leadership. Men don't know how to handle that. But anytime that you are a dominating man, a dominator, a domineering man, it's a responsibility. It's not about lording yourself over other men. It's knowing your position and carrying that with dignity, knowing that these men rely on me. These men are looking up to me. These men expect something from me, and I have to hold myself up to that standard because I am the dominant man in this situation. The buck stops here. But if I walk into another room with a totally different domain, I'm the beta male. I walk in a room with Donald Trump, right? Like we were talking about before, I'm instantly the low man on the totem pole, right? I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Or if I walk in a room with a bunch of like MMA athletes, like I know these motherfuckers will whoop my ass. So I just, I got to stay in my lane. I know my place. But right now, they are alpha compared to me, right? But it's good. It's good. But the only way that we know this is by comparing ourselves and being around other men in a healthy way, meaning you won't have any feelings about it.
Yeah, I love that. Love the way you put it. Tell us about your focus, what you're promoting right now with your brand and business that you got going on right now.
Oh, man, if you like the shit that I'm talking about, just look me up on YouTube. I've got thousands of videos over the course of 20 years. And so you're going to get what you're looking for if you keep digging. I talk about all kinds of shit. But right now, I've come full circle, and it's about fitness. It's about helping fat guys who keep getting fat, lose weight and gain it, lose weight and gain it, to get lean for life. And so usually we're dealing with dudes that are, usually in their 40s. They're usually married, businessmen with kids. And, I'm dedicating the next season of my life of helping those men overcome the vices and the challenges that keep them back from being the true alpha males that they've been called to be. These aren't lazy men, most of them. They're not. They're usually former athletes. A lot of them are business powerhouses. They lead their family with dignity, but they're fat and they're sloppy and they let themselves go. And that's the first place you got to begin if you're going to really reach your peak. So if you want to know about that, I'm talking about it on I have 2 Elliott Hulse channels now. It used to be Strength Camp, but now my brand is Alpha. I haven't changed the name of the channel to Alpha yet. But if you go to Alpha School, if you go to my YouTube channel, you just watch my newest videos on my Elliott Hulse 1 channel. Okay, Elliott 1 and Elliott 2. And I'm talking about Alpha Trainer. You can click the links in those videos to learn about my free community, or you can go to school.com/b-alpha. I got to set up my URL. It's going to be alphaschool.ai here pretty soon. But school.com/alpha-b-alpha. And you can join Alpha School. And inside, I told you what we're doing.
Love it. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate for you being on here. If you're listening right now, click the 3 buttons, copy it, send this to someone that needs to hear this conversation as well. Be inspired in what you're doing, guys. You are your brand X factor, and we'll talk to you soon. Good talk.
Hey, you have a story to share with the world, which means you need to get on more life stages. We have a jam-packed schedule in 2024 full of events, including our biggest event year to date, Brand X. Go to benextgen.com/speak. Again, benextgen.com/speak. Or you could just click the link in the description. Fill out an application. Our team will reach out to you and show you how our speaker partnership works. Get on a stage, give video, blow up your brand, blow up your business. Let's go.